Hello, my name is Carlton Barrow Reed III, and today we're going to talk about prayer. Now, what is prayer that God wants or that He desires? Well, Matthew 6:5 through 7 says, "And when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men. Assuredly, I say to you, they have their reward. But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Therefore, do not be like them, for your Father knows the things that you have need of before you ask Him." So the first thing I want to talk about is what type of prayer does God want, and what does He want us to avoid? Now, long prayers are great, but I don't think He wants us to have long public prayers. Before it says, well, let's look at the verse and what it says. And when you pray, this is what the hypocrites do. I'm not saying long prayers in public are what hypocrites do. Not just because you're praying a long prayer in public doesn't mean you're a hypocrite. But it is something hypocrites do, and it's something we will avoid, or we want to avoid being perceived as. It says, "But you," in verse 6, "when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly." So it's not about what we're praying on the outside, but what we're praying on the inside. Because there's a contrast. The reward is to incentivize, not just incentivize, but it's a sign of approval that from God. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly. And then it says in verse 7, "And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words." Now here, it's not talking about, again, it's not saying all people who repeat a concept or something while they're praying are vain, but it is something that people who worship false gods do. They repeat their words over and over. They say the same thing. They they emphasize what they're saying. But and it says, "For they think that they'll," and it's not, again, because the people who worship false gods do that because they think they'll be heard for their many words, their works. It says, "Therefore do not be like them," in verse 8, "for your Father knows the things you have need of before you ask Him."